Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. As always, I am thankful and I am grateful that you've taken your time to be here. I will tell you that this will be my last podcast, not forever. This will be my last podcast for at least 2 weeks. Those of you who follow me know that we are in a big transition phase of uprooting this whole family from the Northeast to the Southeast, I guess you could say. Not to Florida, down to Tennessee. Also, moving my father down from another state. So I'm dealing in 2 different states and getting this family going. And my wife and I were taking off and going down there. Obviously, to be in a little bit better of a situation. Obviously, taxes play a huge role in that, lower taxes. So, yeah, I'm going to be busy, quite busy for the next couple of weeks. Yeah, there will be truck videos, although there's definitely going to be some truck videos along the way, but no podcasts for at least 2 weeks. So tonight I actually want to talk about, and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Sedevacantism. Now, before I go into what it is, and some of you listening might already know what it is, and some of you might even have a deeper knowledge of it than I do. Now, it first came across my path when I was, it came up in a feed of mine. When I go on YouTube, you have those feeds on the side, and you go and click on a couple of people that I check in on. I always am checking out the enemy and what they're saying, and I don't mean enemy like a personal, like something I know personally, but what we're fighting against out there. So, I keep a close eye. And I don't remember what it was, the title exactly, but it had to do with Mel Gibson. And I spoke briefly about him before. But Mel Gibson, and I just decided to get back into this, and I had just come out with a video, or some sort of video says, he's going to expose everything in Hollywood. He's going to rip the veil off and all the evil and satanicness and all this other stuff. And part of me was a little confused because it's always been there. So it's not like this recent thing. And he has been in Hollywood for quite a long time, since the days of Mad Max. Lethal Weapon. I think there was like 4, 5. I don't remember, but multiple series. And obviously, a lot of people know him from the Passion of the Christ. I did see that movie. But he's going to expose everything, and I didn't. So he was talking about the Vatican and so forth. I'm like, it was a very interesting standpoint, because I thought I'd heard that he was a Catholic before, but he was railing against them. So I started to do a little digging and realized he was part of this whole Sedevacantism, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so I apologize. And it was an interesting thing, and he's a hardliner of the traditionalism before Vatican II. And I have talked about in the past, and so have others, about it's going to be a time where the current modern day Catholic Church is going to be so weak and appear so weak and impotent that there are going to be people who will want those old Catholics who were strong, and they stood up for things, and they were against the immorality, so to speak. Now, here's what problem I have. The woke and the left are like that too, but here's a problem. Remember Nazi. Remember Germany, Hitler, Nazism. The same thing happened. There was a lot of bad things, and they were going to save things, and they were saying the right things, and their country and their leaders became what? Weak and impotent and soft, and didn't seem to have that nationalism and so forth and so on. And so, therefore, they were able to Lenin, I'm going off there. Lenin has spoken about the same thing. Stalin spoke about the same thing of telling the people what they want to hear. So, you can bide your time, so when you get in the right position, you can destroy anyone you want because they've given you power without realizing they gave you the power. So I've always been against the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican. There's so much evil that's come out of there, and I've spoken against it for many, many years. And I've talked about abuse that I've heard about, and people thought I was crazy. Dramatic pause to drink my water. They thought, I'm like, you're an idiot. That those things don't happen in the Catholic Church. And then in the last, 20 years, you see it happening everywhere. All of it's coming out of the woodwork now. And the reason I knew about this was the first story I ever heard from my father was when that his friend there went off because remember, up in the Northeast, and everybody's Catholic, kind of like the same thing in New York. You grew up in New York City in the 50s. Everybody's a Roman Catholic. I'm not insulting anybody. People just were born into it, and somehow they're all Catholic. Why are you Catholic? Because I was born Catholic, and that's not how it works. Why are you Pentecostal? I was born Pentecostal. I was born Baptist. No, you weren't born any of these things. These are things you've chosen to follow. But he went off to seminary, and he came back just frightened to death of the fact that they encouraged homosexuality. There was sex with other. He only knew of one incident with a nun, but it was rampant, and there was no problem. And he was just absolutely disgusted by this. Now, is this hearsay? Yeah, I'm just going by what my father told me about his friend there. Wish I knew his friend today. I don't know if he even knows his friend. I never did ask. Maybe one of these days I will. That would be a great interview. I wouldn't mind doing that one. But, and you didn't hear much of it. He didn't say anything about it. He didn't go talking to he stopped being Catholic, that's for sure. That I know about. He told me the fact that he left the faith at that point. And absolutely, why wouldn't you when that stuff's going on? And I'm not just anti-Roman Catholic. I'm anti the whole SBC and all that kind of stuff. That's all nonsense. That's ridiculous. Should be part of any corporate organizations like that, as far as I'm concerned. But Mel Gibson came across the wire here, and another one I'm going to be talking about briefly is, I think to pronounce his last name, but Jim Caviezel or something like that. He is a fine actor. Again, he was in the Passion of the Christ, interestingly, with Mel Gibson. And he was linked later on to the QAnon stuff and the blood sacrifices in Hollywood and all this other stuff, and he's exposing that, which surprises me, because when you work in Hollywood so long, why did you not say something earlier, which is interesting to me. Maybe they were biding their time for the right moment to strike. I don't know. The homosexuality and orgies and all that type of stuff have been commonplace for 100 years, since the silent era in Hollywood. So I'm a little surprised by that. I mean, yes, there were certain stars that surprised people. What was it, Rock Hudson, who died of AIDS and turned out he was gay, and others. I think the lady from Gone with the Wind, sorry, this is going to bother a lot of people, the old timers, but Vivian Lee, I think her name was. My mother loved that movie, Gone with the Wind. I was like, boy, I couldn't stand that movie. I have watched that thing from start to finish. And she was turns out later a lot of people found out she was, bisexual and nymphomaniac and was into a lot of sexual debauchery. What a shocker in Hollywood. Dramatic pause for water once again. So, I don't understand these people who are just like, they come out and say, hey, they're exposing it. Where were you all this time? But anyways, Sedevacantism, and what is it really? It's people who are anti the Second Vatican Council too, which was in the 60s, the early 60s. It's trying to figure out how to. It's a doctrinal position. It's a doctrinal position within the traditionalist Catholicism. It Their view is it presents an occupier of the Holy See, and it's not a valid pope, due to his espousal of one or more or multiple of the heresies for the lack of a valid pope. And that's because when the Vatican Council II came, it changed things. I'm going to read some of this I wrote down, or the paperwork I have right here. The term actually derived from the Latin phrase. I'm going to skip that. I don't like boring people with that nonsense. Which it just means the chair is vacant, it's being vacant. You can figure that out with vacantism. It's pretty obvious. But it's commonly used to refer specifically to a vacancy of the Holy See from the Pope's death or resignation to the election of a successor. The number of Sedevacantists is known and difficult to measure. This stuff that I compiled says, and estimates range from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. Now, I personally had not heard of them until I started digging deeper, and I've spoken about the far-right Catholic Church taking over in a traditional, and this before I even knew of these people here, and I've already, if you go back to some of my old videos, I said there's going to be traditionalists who want to go back to the old ways, the way it used to be, the Crusades, when the Catholic Church will cut off your head to convert you, will kill you for speaking against them, because that's biblical. And it looks like we might get to that point again, because look how weak the Pope looks, on purpose, is to lead a much stronger Vatican Church led by murderers. So the origin of this, or I should say owes its origin to the rejection of the theological and disciplinary changes that were implemented following the Second Vatican Council between 62 and 65. Remember, they also, I'll keep on reading this because it's going to explain what I was just going to say. They reject the Council on the basis of their interpretation of its documents on ecumenism and religious liberty, among others, which they see as contradicting the traditional teachings of the Catholic Church, and as denying the unique mission of Catholicism as the one true religion, outside of which there is no salvation. Well, we already know as born-again Christian that's false. They use outside sources instead of the source. They also say that the new disciplinary norms, such as the Mass of Paul IV. Now, this was interesting to me because not too long ago, the new Pope, or the current Pope, was talking about how he was not happy with people celebrating or using the old Latin Mass. That is interesting. So there's going to be quite a fight. And then you got the Pope, what did he say? Or, I'm sorry, which Pope was it now? Benedict? Or there's or Francis might have been the one who said it. But there's an evil force or something like that, I didn't write it down, walking amongst them in the halls or in the Vatican. Kind of setting up this whole thing, isn't it? Laying down the groundwork of what's going to be happening. So I'm a little concerned about it. I think people don't know about it as much. And we have more and more, I don't know if you want to call them influencers, that are starting to pop up in the media and in the movies and music and so forth. There's also something called, I'm not going to get into it. I thought I might, but I don't think I will. We'll see how tonight goes. Sedeprivationism. And that's just a doctrinal position within traditional Catholicism, which holds that the current occupant of the Holy See is a duly elected Pope, but lacks the authority and ability to teach or to govern unless he recants the changes brought by the Second Vatican Council. So, a very big issue, because remember, traditional Catholics, they hate the Protestants. That's just how it is. There's Protestants and there's Roman Catholic. That's how the world works, and it's not really the way it really is. True Bible-believing Christians are neither one of those things. They are, those who strictly follow the King James Bible are neither Protestant or Catholic? That's tough. I've always talking to somebody today that I confuse people because I don't fit in the pre-designated box which society, culture, or religion needs. So they're confused when people stand up for things and they stand on the grounds of the Bible and they are sola scriptura without actually trying to kill you, to change you to it. So confusing for some people. But you have two sides within each other. They agree that the Second Vatican Council II, which is just a bunch of hogwash that just united, or the whole idea of coexist the religions together to create better Bibles so we can all, agree and get along. I was listening to this one podcast. What is it called? Yikes, now I gotta pause. I was listening. Oh, the Trent Council, or Council of Trent, I don't know, something like that. And clearly I disagree with him on everything. Well, no, that's not true. He was calling out the Protestants, and I would agree with him there. But I think he's got much more in line with them than he even actually realizes. Now I forgot what I was going to say that he was saying, but yeah, he's far off base too. But there's this growing. Oh, he was talking about the RSV. The Catholic Church does not have an official Bible. Now he is good friends. It would appear with Jimmy Akins, who is from that organization called Catholic Answers, which was founded by Carl Keating. That guy. Wow, is he? He is a double talk. I have a few of his books, not with me right now, they're packed up, but in his own books, he contradicts himself. An absolute liar and fibber, but he'll get his just rewards one day from in hell. Sorry, I don't want to be mean, but I hope he recants and repents for his sinful ways and his lies, which are easy to debunk, and how he was in charge for so long, I'll never know. But he talked about the Catholic Church does not have an official Bible. That was the first time I've actually heard anybody like that. And he actually, the 16, the Douay-Rheims that was created in the 1609, was okay for it was good for its time. But if you want, it depends on what type of Bible you're looking for. Well, I thought that was a very odd statement. I'm like, so he doesn't mind the Old English and so forth, but he likes the RSVCE, and I thought to myself, you gotta be kidding me. And he talks about how things don't diverse. The language has changed a little bit, so they change it to fit the times, and because there's very hard words to understand for the modern world. I'm like, oh, here we go with the whole don't understand words. Can you not take 2 seconds to describe a word? There was 2 scriptures he gave, and I don't remember the first one, but the second one was suffer. Don't suffer my children, in Matthew. And I thought to myself, okay, well, here we go. Suffer means what? Allow? Don't stop, I don't know, anyways. Yeah, it takes about 10 seconds to explain a word, so I don't know why that's an issue for them. But then I thought to myself, well, it's interesting because I did it's in Genesis, and I'm not going to remember where it is, but it talks about when Eve is going to crush the heel, her heel is going to crush the head, and it changes because King James says, your offspring will. But the Douay-Rheims changed that NRSV when they say they don't. Well, you know what? Go back to my old videos. I'm not going to get into it right now because I'll go off forever. But the Douay-Rheims in their scriptures have changed over the years. Not verb, not the spellings of words or anything like that. Actual changes. Context matters. I mean, like when you change a he to a she, it's kind of a huge difference. That's interesting. Or if you leave something completely out. And they do that at so I've always told people, well, look at the Catholic Bibles, and you'll see that none of them 100% match up, and yet the King James happens to match up all the way through. And when he said the RSVCE, I was like, oh goodness. And he was talking about other people. So there's going to be a rise, I'm going to tell you right now, of this Sedevacantism that I spoke about before. I didn't have their name, but they are that traditional side that's going to come up and in the far right, and we're going to go back into that time frame. America is gone. It was never intended to survive. I don't know what this whole Save America is. I'm glad that we have the country at the moment we have it. It is still among the freer places to be. But at the end of the day, I will be free as long as God needs me to be free and gives me that freedom. And whenever he decides, hey, we're done now, you're coming home, and we're ending this. I'm like, okay, fantastic. So I tell you what, I'm like, and these Catholics are like the road, fight, but anyways. So let's talk about a few names, though, like Matt Walsh is one. He's pretty popular now. I've seen a number of his things. Does some pretty good stuff. I'll give him credit for it, Attack of the Trans. But this is the thing. These guys are going after a core audience that they can start recruiting to the Catholic Church. But they don't even know what Catholic Church they're recruiting to. There's going to be a great divide, and then, of course, we know the Antichrist will come from that direction. We already know that. And you have this Father Mike Schmidt. Man, that guy is creepy as all can be. I came across him about a year ago. I don't know how he got into my feed. Well, maybe God put him there. And I'm watching this guy. I'm like, I don't like this guy. This guy. I almost didn't even hear anything he said. I was just looking at this guy's eyes, and I'm like, man, this guy's creepy. Brother Casey Cole's another one I wrote down. A Jesuit in the Open. This guy. That's not his title, but another man with the eyes. If you just look at his eyes, I think he's got dead eyes. And this is my personal opinion. And recently, I'm not going to say anything about this next guy, Brian Holdsworth, who seems to be an up-and-coming, Catholic man with the long hair and the mustache and beard. And let's bring. It's interesting what's going on. Please pay attention to what they're doing. Then you have celebrities like Mark Wahlberg. I wrote these names down. Mark Wahlberg, please. Know them by their fruits. You look at these people, and they are from a particular religion or a denomination or faith base or whatever you want to call it. Look at what their lives are. Well, nobody's perfect. There's a difference between perfect and absolute debauchery and sin. Mark Wahlberg is one. He's been a Catholic since he was born, and he is still strong to that. Very much into violence, sexual-related things. Anne Hathaway, she's a Catholic and an atheist, which is very interesting. She has claimed at times to be both, which I don't know how you can do that. Nicole Kidman. She claims to be Catholic. George Clooney claims to be Catholic. Nicole Kidman in that whole pornography movie, what was it called? Eyes Wide Shut back in the 90s. I did not see that movie. I'm not trying to say, because I don't want people to think bad about me. I just never seen that movie. I definitely had no desire to do so. I know that there was an interview once with her, and she said it was a love story. I'm like, okay, whatever. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Catholic, Roman Catholic, interesting. I'm not sure how. He's your role model, the Terminator. Well, I guess killing people that are in your way. It goes with the old style Catholic Vatican Church. That works. Jessica Alba, I put her because that's an interesting character. She did a lot of movies, and then I started to learn about her because she had that organic company that made organic baby stuff. So when you have kids, you look up stuff like that. It's out there. But anyways, she's your Roman Catholic. Bono, kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? Bono was Roman Catholic. I'm like, oh please. U2 back in the 80s had some pretty decent music when I was a kid. What was I, 12, 13 when they were making music? Katie Holmes, which I thought that was interesting because Katie Holmes married Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise being the Christian scientist there. That was L. Ron Hubbard's little cult. Still a cult. Pretty big cult, but still a cult. Dramatic pause. So I guess Roman Catholicism can marry into that. So, and you have news media, you have all of that out there. I mean, we have what now? Newsmax and Fox News. You had Fox News, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch, which is interesting. He's a Roman Catholic, and he has a company that he's a Roman Catholic now, creates satanic Bibles. I'm not saying he went and made them. I'm just saying they produced them, and he sells them under his brand, his news agency brand, which is interesting. Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity's a Roman Catholic. Brett Barr, that's another one. Who's the woman? Laura Ingraham. She's a little nutty, but she's a Roman Catholic. Martha McCollum. The first time I realized she was Catholic, I happened to turn on the TV one time, and I'll check the different news stations, CNN, and I love seeing these geniuses on both sides fighting each other, and she had the ash on her forehead. I'm like, oh, well, I guess she's a Roman Catholic. I don't really know much about her. I don't think she's anything particularly brilliant or anything, but it's whatever. She's fine. Dana Verino. I thought she was a decent. What was she? She was in the White House there, press, whatever they call them. I forget what the name is. She's Roman Catholic. You got Janine Pereiro. She's Catholic. And there's that the woman there. The woman who was with Donald Trump Jr. and was with Gavin Newsom. That was very interesting. She's a Roman Catholic. She's out there. Juan Williams. When I first found out he was Roman Catholic, I was actually kind of surprised because he's definitely, in my opinion, he's like the apologist for the left. Interesting. Neil Cavuto, who I disdain incredibly, he's Roman Catholic. I think he is an absolute, just a bad dude. Bill Hemmer, that's another one. Steve Ducey from the Fox and Friends there, who sits with Brian Kilmeade, who wrote a couple of books, who's also Roman Catholic, and with that woman, I think what was her name? Ainsley Earhart, who had an affair. Now, remember that now. The Roman Catholic Sean Hannity had an affair with this Episcopalian Ainsley Earhart. Good, solid Bible-believing folk there, huh? Tucker Carlson, which I'm just going to call Catholic. Some say he's Episcopalian. What did the famous Robin Williams say back in the olden days? It's Catholic light. Trying to think of the other ones. There was the someone said the judge Andrew what was it, Napolino or something like that he was a homosexual. Shepard Smith, homosexual. I mean, it's just interesting how Fox is, it's the conservative station. I'm like, please get out of town. I mean, you have a diversity, I guess, Murdoch was shooting for there, but they're infiltrating everywhere. Roman Catholic, I mean, people, it's just disgusting. And evangelicals and stuff like that, who are, even the people who are anti-Roman Catholic, love the Fox News. I'm like, oh my goodness. Do you know who it's controlled by? Then you have Newsmax, which is clearly a Catholic station. And people that say, oh, you're just knocking all Catholics, you hate Catholics. No, what I'm telling you is, I hate the word to use the word grooming, but people are being groomed as if these powerful Catholics are bringing back what men are supposed to be. I don't think you understand at all. A real man stands up to anything that they disagree with. The Roman Catholic Church will not allow that. Their idea of a real man is to stand up against the things that they tell you to stand up against. Understand that. That is the pre-Vatican Council too. Let's, and some will say, yeah, the Vatican Council too made the Roman Catholic Church more of a bunch of pansies. Maybe you can, and I'm not going to disagree with you there, but there's going to be a far right rising. I mean, over in Poland there was some. You got folks in Ukraine. It is not going to be a pleasant time. Mel Gibson is paving the way. And now I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to say that every one of these individuals that I spoke of is actively on purpose trying to pave this road, but they're paving this road. Mel Gibson, the rest. I mean, come on, Mel Gibson's your solid faith-based religious leader there. Come on, look at his life. And Jim Caviezel, I have no idea how to pronounce his name. Fine actor. I've seen some of his stuff. I think he did a TV show. Point of interest. I think I'm stumbling now. Point of interest. It was a TV show where cameras would fall. It's a long story. It was an interesting concept, and we see it happening now. But pause again for water. But these people are creating this road that's going to happen. I've talked about a locomotive train of the far left and the far right was going to be on a track, and they're on a crash course. They hit each other, and there's going to be a lot of collateral damage, which is all of us simple folks on the side. It's coming, and you have to understand, whether it be the fact that the Vatican, the arguments there that they were behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the fact that they helped pour money into the Confederate soldiers in that time frame, the fact that they're directly connected with the Rothschilds and the Medici going way back. It's there. They no longer can actually hide it. That's the funny thing. So when you can no longer hide something, you just start just saying it in the open. Like that young man, brother Casey Jones, or whatever his name is. He openly says he's a Jesuit, and Jesuits are wonderful people. I'm like, oh boy. So you're going to have a hardline pre-Vatican Council II church coming, and it's not going to be the type of church you're hoping for. Much like Germany when the Nazis came. You're like, oh yeah, we need a change, and they're like, wait a second, I don't know that this is the change I thought was going to happen, And then you got the left, sort of the woke generation here going on, and look at the LGBT movement too. Now they're fighting, they're pushing, we need rights, and then they start arguing, well, we need rights more than you need rights, and then now they eat themselves up. See. It's all about selfishness, and the longer you are not living, or even the longer you're not living in the Bible and living for God, you got trouble. The longer you stay away, you don't come to the Lord. Your life is going to be a complete mess by the time you die if you don't turn to God. You can call it fear-mongering you want. You should be used to it, because if you're the Vatican, especially pre-Vatican Council too, but what's coming next, they are going to be fear-mongering. Newsmax is fear-mongering. CNN, fear-mongering. Fox News, fear-mongering. Democrats, fear-mongering. Republicans, fear-mongering. Every single one of them is fear-mongering. Their war and death and creating such disunity. There is only one unity. There's only one place to find unity, and that's the Bible. That's the King James Bible. Why do I say the King James Bible? Because it has been proven over and over and over again that it has never changed. Well, actually, 1611 was spelled differently. Don't give me that nonsense. Don't give me that nonsense. Sit down with it. Sit down with the 1611, the King James you have now from local church publishers or something, and go side by side. And you're going to see nothing's really changed. Spelling has changed. I've used a simple explanation of time. Timetym. You don't have to be an MIT student, a Harvard student, a rocket scientist to figure that out. You don't have to go to Stanford to figure that out. Come on now, let's not play games. Don't be ignorant. Don't do that. And on the other side, it's completely changed throughout time. The versions keep on changing. Even the Catholic versions, whether it be the NAB or the RSVCE, the NRSV, which was the newer one, so the New Jerusalem Bible. That's another interesting one. But that's, and they keep on changing. So I ask you quite simply, do you trust something that never changes? Or do you trust something that continually changes? If I can't trust the Bible every year that comes out, I'm like, oh, it changed again. Oh, it changed again. Oh, it changed one more time. No, the Word of God is not supposed to be altered at all. And yes, you can understand the King James Bible. It may take you a second on a couple of the words, but interesting about that is it actually, the definition or the explanation is in the sentence before it. I'm actually looking at the time on the clock, and I'm thinking I'm going a little longer than I thought I was going to go. But just pay attention to this group. I think it's important to know with the conclavisms and so forth and so on. It's hugely important to understand what's going on. If you do not pay attention and look at it all around you, it's happening right before your eyes. All of this is going on. The Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, is paving a way. There are the ones who are ready to go back to the way it was. Never mind make America great again. The Vatican wants to make the Vatican great again. And that means death. I appreciate your time very much. God bless, and good evening.